now because the preseason is out of the way. We're on the road officially to the regular season, but the Bucks finish a weird and certainly abnormal preseason slate 0-5. This game carried significantly more intrigue than probably the other preseason games, certainly to start, with Giannis playing, Jrue Holiday back in the lineup, Brook Lopez, a more familiar-looking Bucks team. It didn't necessarily mean that they looked all that much better on the floor, though, Frank. Where do you want to start here? Because certainly by the time the Nets starters had checked out of this game, it really wasn't close.
No, Giannis hits 32 minutes. Jrue Holiday played 35 minutes. Interesting. But as you said, I mean, the Nets weren't exactly, holding back by preseason standards either. KD at 31 minutes, Kyrie Irving 33. So the best players for both teams played a fair bit. But the Bucks they just didn't look. They haven't looked sharp at all. I think. Really, what it comes down to. This game was not a game where it was like they just had a bad shooting night from three, and the Nets made a bunch of shots, and whatever. I mean, Bucks were 13 of 33 from three. The Nets were 9 out of 30. It's not like the Nets set the world on fire from 3-point range. The Nets were 12 for 22 from the foul line, which I guess. You always look at a team with Nick Claxton as being a threat to have bad free throw nights. But it was really just everything else. And we started camp talking about this idea of the Bucks, cutting down on opponent threes, and mission accomplished. The only problem is they literally haven't stopped any other type of shot, it seems. And Nets 51% overall in this game. And, what were they, 34 of 54? I mean, again, Bucks just got roasted inside the arc and in transition. I mean, the Bucks transition defense was non-existent. Like, that is not something that this team normally does very well, but they just looked, like Doris Burke, referenced the travel and everything. They just looked kind of like tired and kind of going through the motions for long stretches of this game. And, Giannis coming back in late when the Nets had benched all their starters. And, I was just like, okay, I guess I'm glad that maybe Giannis is taking it a little personally, because he was really poor. I mean, 6 out of 21 from the field. Skill source 24 points because he got to the line a ton. But he just looked, he looked like he basically hadn't played at all in the preseason, which essentially he hasn't, right? It's only the second game. He didn't look good in the first game against Atlanta and Abu Dhabi either. So, yeah, I mean, just a very underwhelming preseason for the Bucks. And, Jrue Holiday at least had his shot going a little bit, but he had 7 turnovers in this game. So, aside from Javon Carter, I don't know that anybody really covered themselves in glory for the Bucks this preseason. The list of winners and losers is very short on winners. Let's say I don't know if they're really any big losers because it's just preseason, but I think again, just Bucks would look like a team that really is missing Chris Middleton and is just really missing any kind of look of polish on the floor right now. And I thought it was funny. I don't know if many people were even watching at that point in the fourth quarter when Bud was getting interviewed. He made the comment like, I think we've had a really good training camp, but we're not showing it on the floor, and we don't feel great about that. So they've got now essentially a week plus to iron some things out before they face the Sixers on opening night. But let's just say I'm certainly not going into that game feeling like the Bucks are going to be raring and ready to start the NBA season, and you hope that they have a similar experience last year where they again didn't look good in preseason and then showed up and looked great on opening night against Brooklyn on ring night. But yeah, let's just say hopefully they're starting to take this a little bit personally, and you hope pride kicks in at some point here, because definitely the play in the preseason, even putting aside the record, right? It's not like the Bucks looked good for long stretches, but the bench blew games in the fourth quarter. They only really had one game that they had a chance to win, and that was the Reserve Fest G League game. That was the opener against the Grizzlies. Other than that, no matter who's played, they really have kind of just at best hung around, and then in the second halves, teams have just rolled them. And again, I think defense, offense, not a whole lot to write home about on either side.
Yeah, so if you do look, and again, I think this would be heavily indicated by the Nets had their bench cleared and the Bucks made this a little more interesting. But it was well into double digits by the time basically the Nets starters stopped playing. I saw a few people, and we generally go down this path of, okay, it's preseason, how concerned are we actually going to be? But yeah, they just really haven't looked good. And I think, Bud had a hint of annoyance. He threw a smile in at the end of the interview, but you could tell that he wasn't exactly pleased with the way the team was playing. And it's no surprise to anyone that Giannis would. He always tries to play hard. He was trying, I would say, tonight, but he also looked pretty frustrated, whether it was the way he was being defended, the fact that he wasn't able to finish some of those shots at the rim. He finally got an and one on a spin move, I think, in the third quarter. And he kind of just rested his head up against the stanchion and just took a few seconds because I think he was starting to get annoyed. That's certainly what it looked like. I don't think he had a lot of fun in the matchup with Ben Simmons in terms of the way he normally just completely obliterates preseason when he plays in limited minutes. So I did see a lot of people tweeting out the stat that the Bucks were 0-5 in preseason when they won the title. I can't remember, Frank,
0-3.
How they 0-3 was it? I can't remember how they looked in those 3 games, but yeah, I'm certainly going to be tuning in with curiosity on opening night and probably a little uncertainty about how this team is going to look.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, my biggest concern is just the fact that there's no Chris Middleton on opening night.
Yeah.
And so just your margin of error is just necessarily a lot narrower and going to put a lot more pressure on Giannis in terms of, he's not going to have those nice pick and roll actions with Chris. He's not going to have Chris throwing those alley-oops and look-ahead passes that we're used to Chris giving him some easy buckets on. So it's going to be Giannis, obviously, and Jrue. And Giannis, I think, is just going to have to shoulder a lot more kind of creation load than he might otherwise have to. And it's been hard to tell in preseason because not only are you missing Chris Middleton, obviously Joe Ingles is out for the foreseeable future, but then the fact that Wes Matthews hasn't played either has also just made it kind of harder to tell, how's this team actually going to look and match up, because it feels like they're always either too big or too small, right? They're always playing. They've been playing these big lineups with Bobby and Brooke with Giannis. But then, like tonight, it was Javon Carter in the backcourt next to Jrue. And then again, I mean, Jrue can defend whatever, right? But you end up in this weird situation against a team like the Nets because, Jrue's the one that started on KD, which, size-wise isn't a great thing. But what are you going to do? We saw Giannis, he has a hard time getting over screens. And I don't think he's a great matchup for long stretches against KD either. So, yeah, I mean, we're saying the obvious here. They just need Chris Middleton back. That will, I think, bring in not just kind of the offensive piece, but just, I think, defensively as well, just create a much more normal set of kind of matchups and rotations that you can go to. But we don't know when that's going to be, right? And we were talking about it, talking with Eric the other day, trying to figure out when we're actually going to see Chris Middleton. When you and Justin were talking about expecting maybe Christmas is the first month, that's 14 games. I mean, I didn't have much confidence that they were going to be a top, certainly not the top seed in the East, but I think if Chris is missing that many games right out of the chute, no matter what the schedule is, I wouldn't pick them to finish second, under those circumstances, right? I just think what we know about them in the past 2 regular seasons, they haven't had really extended stretches of looking good, and coming into a season with Chris out, if it is 4 weeks, then again, just that margin of error, the degree of difficulty just goes up a lot, and it just feels like a sort of different version of last year when it wasn't obviously Chris that had all the injuries, but you had Jrue out for a period at the start of the season, and then obviously after opening night, Brooke was out, and they were really thin in the big ranks. So So you'd be fine for opening night. I don't think we've heard anything suggest otherwise. But Wes Matthews' health is suddenly extremely, extremely important for a team that, you know, but certainly it just feels like the whatever value you could have gotten from preseason in terms of getting
awards and all those types of things. BetOnline remains your continued source for all sports wagering information. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including the baseball postseason as well. MMA, the Nets though. This is a different